Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and you are back on Global TV Talk Show, a business unit of globalbusinessnews.net. It's really amazing, and I thank you all out there for watching. Since April 2020, Google Analytics, April 2020, producer Paul and I launched this series and I didn't know what I was doing. Maybe Paul did, but the idea is to look at this green little light and not at you. So that's a challenge in itself. But they say, Google Analytics says that we've had almost 110,000 audience page views since April 2020 through last week. It's amazing. So thank you. And it's because of quality programming, intelligent conversation like this. In Germany, this is Dr. Justin Kennedy. And in Wisconsin, America's Dairyland, Mark Naidicz, welcome back.
Great to be here.
So,
hey, how you doing, Rob?
Dr. Kennedy, you're a well-known advisor on the neurological things. In English, what does that mean?
Well, the simple answer to a necessarily complex opportunity is that I'm professor of organizational neuroscience with a Swiss business school. And organizational neuroscience, Rob, is simply about bringing neuroscience in its applied form into the organizational context for leadership development, for team and individual development, and even systemic development of an organization. If that's brief enough, I don't know.
So, and one of your most recent energizing activities is about rebooting your brain. And so rebooting your brain means becoming a startup, even though you've been doing the same thing for years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way of putting it. The idea for the book happened about 20 years ago, but my brain was a bit too pre-startup to be able to consider writing a book, simply because I was recovering from a subdural hemorrhage and being in a coma. So before I became a professor in neuroscience, I started out on the other side of the medical team, if you like.
Well, that's quite amazing, a story in itself. Mark, what do you think about that?
Well, it's just amazing. I had a great opportunity to meet Justin about a year ago now, and become a good friend and mentor and coach to me personally. And we met, serendipitously, and it's become a great friendship. But the principles in the book are just amazing. And I think what he's been able to do is take something that's incredibly complex and kind of give us a framework for how we can do that in our own lives. And there's been many times that we've all faced not nearly the same thing that Dr. Kennedy did, but to be able to kind of reboot our brain. And he taught me a lot about rebooting my own brain in terms of my next kind of career in life, the next chapter, if you will, and through his coaching and consulting. And it was very, very powerful for me.
Well, as you can see in this cute little video, Dr. Kennedy, why don't you explain, well, it looks obvious, but here's somebody who needs a fix. And what do you do?
So are you speaking with Magic Mark, or are you speaking, what are you referring to?
Yeah, with you, Dr. Kennedy. We're watching the video from your site about rebooting the brain, and like the brain opens up and there's different pieces rearranged, and then you put it back together and he becomes a happy person.
That is a really fun video. Oh yeah, here it is. And it's an animation of me and Mark. No, I'm just kidding. It is a funny animation, just putting together the simple theory of the process of where people come to me with some kind of issue. We analyze what it might be, we discuss, and we put together some ideas and some next steps, and then we implement them. There's a coaching process to help them keep on track, and then hopefully the process finishes, and hopefully the relationship doesn't, as it has with me and Mark. We're still in communication, and we're still happy friends.
No, that's cool. So Mark, in your years, looking at your years in experience in big pharma as a VP HR and executive level, you rebooted people's brains all the time, didn't you?
Well, yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I think it's where the parallel is in what Dr. Justin does is being able to help people actually do a lot of reflection and learning and essentially giving some guidance to that. So I think there are parallels to our work that we've done. Mine more on the corporate world, but certainly the kind of the skills and expectations are very, very similar in that work, and that's why I think we work so well together, because he brought a very different kind of perspective than I did, but there was a lot of alignment as to what we were trying to do, and it really comes down to really what's that purpose. What's that focus and that purpose that you want?
So, Dr. Kennedy, now this is like a scientific thing, of course, but our audience is not scientific. So, how do you relate? I mean, I could see that you're a really charming man, but how do you relate to people who are under some stress and they need some help?
Well, the first thing you need to do, you need to take a blood sample, and depending on the cortisol levels, which is a measurement of stress, it helps to go through an MRI protocol to look at what data you can analyze. And once you've got that data, you can know that I'm talking absolute rubbish, because the process is completely an applied science. It's not about doing any analysis medically. It's all about looking through the lens of what the brain does. So, for example, when we are stressed, there's a high level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And when that happens, the brain stops thinking so cleanly, and it starts thinking emotionally, and it doesn't make good decisions. So when you're working with a coach and you're stressed out, the job of that coach is to help you take a breath, calm down, and help you see the wood for the trees. And then once you've stopped being a carpenter of your own problems, you can then start looking at what needs to happen. So working with Mark is a good opportunity. I mean, he wasn't having a physical stress, but he was looking at philosophical stress. Thinking, now that I've been top of my game, and I've been someone in the corporate environment that has reached the top, and nobody can disrespect me and nobody, I'm just teasing. But, he had really done an amazing career, but, he wasn't finished. He hasn't ready to hang up his hat. And in the coaching process, I tried to involve him in building a consulting practice, but that wasn't really his thing. So as a coach, I had to help him map out what he wanted to do. And he's really found his niche right now. And, Mark, maybe it's good to just share a bit of details on your journey through the coaching process and how you found your groove in the next phase of your life.
Yeah, it was incredibly powerful. Again, just being able to spend some time working through some exercises, and Justin, you could probably show some of those because they're incredibly powerful about, one of the things that kind of give you, and it sounds very basic, but it's very hard to kind of, get through this. And what Justin was able to do is, I think his gift is being able to help you truly focus, right? And I'm tend to be a person that likes to do a lot of things, as it kind of exposed in my career, having many different jobs, being involved in many different organizations and boards and volunteer work. And I wanted to really kind of bring that all together for me to say, in the next 30 years, hopefully, God willing, of my life, so I can see my new grandson grow up and just enjoy the things that are most passionate for me. And what he helped me to kind of, get more clarity around was in three areas. One is I still love to be involved in the business of human resources, right? Or consulting, but not as a consultant, but working on other teams that help organizations. So that's what I do now. But it's not my own independent consultancy because I get my energy from other people. The other area was really around my passion is education and philanthropy work, and being able to kind of then identify really the long range plan, right? What is it that you want to be? What's that legacy? And for me, I've been able to clearly find that. And I think as people move from one kind of career, if you will, to the next, mine happened to be, I just was very grateful that I could retire at a very young age because this was something that was important. And then the third was just really, truly enjoying all the wonderful gifts that I have. I'm one of the most blessed and thankful and full of gratitude for what my life has been, and I want to continue to do that. So, I still am very involved in a lot of things, but I've been able to truly focus. And what Justin also taught me to, and other people, is sometimes you have to say no. You can't be all things to all people and focus on what really matters.
Brilliant. So Doctor, that's a success story for you.
Thank you, Mark.
So on the coaching side, as the slide shows, so this is not theory. This is very practical stuff, right, Doctor?
Mm-hmm. Now, Ed, please stop calling me by my title. I'm much more humble than that. But
okay,
Ed, I think that the key thing about the work that I do is about helping professionals define their legacy. And that only comes later in your career. But before you define your legacy, it's about how you're going to define a career path that is based on your passion. So it's really looking at what are the things that get you up in the morning and make you motivated to live the life on purpose. So that's a really important message that I'd like to share, is that if you're not living the life on purpose, something went wrong. And creating meaning drives everything else. But sometimes there's things in the way, like stress or insomnia or relationships or finance or geography or family, but there's stuff. So getting through the web is a very important part of the work that I really like doing with coaches. I mean, also do work with coaching students and professionals to find a PhD. And often that is mainly based on their professional experience. So helping the people define a PhD topic. Mark wouldn't engage in it because he's not worried about a PhD. But there's many people that are interested in that. So share that out as long with the coaching as helping people to define what PhD topic would be around their expertise as a professional, not an academic.
So I've got a friend who is a business guy and a keynote speaker, and he's been on my program several times over the years, live and audio and video. And he decided to get a PhD. And he says, just recently, he said, it's really made a difference. The phone actually rings now because I've got those letters.
And there is something true, there's something around the perception effect, and there's also something around the expertise that is validated academically. So you can say something that this model or this approach is pretty good, and you might have some testimonials, and no one's going to judge you unless you fail. However, if you have taken that research through the academic rigor and it's come out as valuable and valid, then then people will say, well, you've done your rigorous research, and that gives me another level of trust. Maybe not appropriate, it might have not been implemented into the professional environment. So the people that I coach to get PhDs, I say this is a professional PhD, this is not an academic PhD. We need to validate it within the corporate and organizational environment. So don't get carried away at building theoretical models. Let's look at professional models that can make a difference to the business environment.
Very practical, not theory.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
Well
so
said.
This is interesting. So here's a nice picture. And this is another video right here, a quick tour. And we cannot hear that, but it's
Thank
on
goodness.
so it's on the site. Everybody out there, go to the website for professorkennedy.com, and you'll see all this stuff there. So I'm old school, as you can see here. I've been writing down notes here.
Me too.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's how it goes from this to up that brain, and it's rebooted. So how long did it take you to write this book, Brain Reboot?
It took me about 20 years to write it. But the time it took from deciding to actually sit down and document it it took about 2 years, maybe slightly less. Ed, that seemed about the amount of time it takes to get it done. But I don't see another book happening in the near future. It's extremely exhausting. So yeah, there it is.
I've heard that from others we've had on the show. Okay, so as a neuroscientist, let's do a little bit of a deep dive on that.
Okay.
Because that's the structure here that supports all of that, right? Mm-hmm. So from your view, being a neuroscientist means that it's like you're an engineer, right?
Well, in the organizational context, neuroscience is an applied science. It's not an academic medical science. It's looking at how you can apply the knowledge into the organizational, into the leadership, into the team and people development side. So the thinking around this of me being a scientist, it's really as an organizational scientist, or if you prefer, an organizational neuroscientist. So I have a clinical license, but it's not related to this work. This work is as a coach and consultant. So the engineering factor is really about the individual professional engineering, not about the neurological engineering intentionally and directly. It's an applied science. So if you look at what behavioral neuroscience suggests, and it suggests that if you train the mind, you can change the brain. Or if you train the brain, you can change the mind. So it's really looking at the tools that you can implement to change your behavior. A simple example is sleep. Most of the planet doesn't sleep enough. And if you haven't got the dose of sleep your brain needs, you can't really show up the next day. Your brain isn't recharged. So the application of neuroscience is to change that behavior so that you get the sleep, so that you get what's called the sleep hygiene in place.
So the sleep is this wire.
Well, it's not really the wire, it's the thing on the end of the wire. And the blue light that comes off smartphones is obviously not going to help you sleep. But putting your phone in the fridge or the microwave or in the kitchen, it's very difficult for people not to be strapped to their phone. So the behavioral journey of helping a person stop the noise of social media so that they can actually just fall asleep is surprisingly complicated. And the coaching around sleep hygiene is a very interesting one. So there is a whole dialogue, but obviously there's very many different ideas where the application could be relevant, Ed, if that's a good example.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergei Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic, because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them, because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Well, about 22 years ago, Joanne and I we went to a concert, a musical at the beach. This guy by the name of Yanni, all right, Yanni, I think he's from Athens. Anyway, he sat down at the piano and outdoor at the Mission Beach, San Diego area, playing. God, it was just beautiful. And it was like almost a lullaby of peacefulness, even though it was a lot of sound, cascading sounds, all right, and the waves in the background, And
Wow.
so we bought that CD like 22 years ago, and that damn thing still works. we
Wow.
every night, it's like therapy or
Wow.
a pathway.
No, that is an observation. There's a couple of things going on. The first one is the beautiful music. So, there it is. I mean, we're not trying to pretend that it isn't beautiful. The second part is your experience, on the beach, holding your wife's hand, whatever you did on the beach. I'm sure it was really enjoyable, and the whole experience. Okay, moving on. Okay. And, so you have you had a great experience. The third part is that when you remember that experience, the brain notices that pattern and probably glorifies it because it was a great experience. So your brain makes it more enjoyable, or at least it only remembers the good parts. Okay, so you don't remember the sand getting stuck in your shoes or whatever. So as a result, the cerebellum specifically starts noticing those patterns, and it embeds them. So you have a good memory. So that's why people have their favorite wine, or they have their favorite movie or whatever, because those things have embedded benefits. So the thinking is that the emotional center informs the cerebellum, the habit center, which then informs the prefrontal cortex, the thinking center, which says, do more stuff like that. It was good stuff. So hopefully you'll buy a second CD sometime in your future.
So interestingly, as you can imagine, on this talk show, there's a lot of people who want this platform and this megaphone that we've been fortunate to build. So anyway, I had this concert pianist as a guest, and he came on the show, and he played some music, and it was sort of like new age kind of stuff, and then he showed a video of what that kind of music does for people with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, especially if it's an old favorite song from the 40s or 50s or something. Okay. And people are now, 70, 80, and they're afflicted with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. But when that music comes on, in one case, there was a woman, another case, a guy. So the woman was, and heard the music with headphones and began singing the words to whatever song that was. And it was like night and day. And then the other instance was this guy with severe Parkinson's. I mean, really couldn't really walk a straight line, shuffling around and shaking. And they put music on, and it was it's kind of a waltz kind of a song. I can't remember the name. But he took the therapist, which is a nurse, mature elderly woman, who was propping him up, trying to stand up straight, and they started dancing like a waltz. It was like, wow. So this therapy, the engineering of that kind of a thing to help people with afflictions is like a miracle, or is it not? Science.
So the science of miracles is really hard to duplicate. In fact, it's impossible. Otherwise, everybody would be walking on water or whatever. Okay. So what happens neurologically is what I call the dose effect. Okay. So that stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, epinephrine. Okay. So what happens when the brain has the dose effect, the D for dopamine gives you the perception or the experience of some reward. Okay. So for example, when you see an ice cream shop, you think, oh, great, I will have an ice cream, it'll feel and taste good. So, okay, great. The O stands for oxytocin, which gives you a felt benefit of a shared experience. So, you know, it's more fun going to, I don't know, going to the beach with your loved one because you can share it than going on your own, as a simple example. I mean, not exclusively, but, you know, oxytocin does help. Your wife's, your son's wife, Mark, will be having a lot of oxytocin while breastfeeding because there's a bonding experience going on with the baby. The third is serotonin, which is the felt experience of calmness, which is evidence of me feeling this is okay. So I don't have to go anywhere. I can just stay here in a calm and state of well-being. And when I notice that everything's okay, I then get a surge of epinephrine or adrenaline to take action or to do something that's pretty fun, enjoyable, positive, happy. Okay, so that's the neurological journey. With a person with Parkinson's, in the conversation, however, through the music, they think, wow, this is going to be of benefit. I can hear the music. This is rock and roll to my brain. Okay. Then they're with a person who is giving them support and encouragement. So there's an oxytocin pumping. They then notice that this is a safe, a calm, a beautiful place. And with that serotonin sinking into that calm place, they then know, okay, great, this is a safe place. Now I can get up and do something, use this adrenaline pump to do something that I haven't done, have done, or would like to challenge myself to do because it's in a safe, enjoyable space. So that's my quick overview of the dosing effect.
Thank you. I'll take one.
Okay, well, the red pill or the blue pill, Ed, which one?
So, Mark, tell us about your philanthropy.
Well, again, I focus in the world of education because I believe that's our future. So while I'm not getting my PhD, I'm trying to help in a different way. I was at a board meeting this morning for one of the boards I'm on, and they were recognizing an individual for just amazing service. And I just want to read this because I think this is what the kind of end result that Justin talked about. The person was recognizing this individual, and it was a quote that said, "I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy." And I think that's that kind of end result that Justin was talking about, is where you just feel that amazing gift that you can help support someone else. For me, that's that joy that you talked about, or that thing that gives me that high, if you will.
Exactly.
So to be able to kind of do those things, I think is just for me, that's it. And what Dr. Justin helped me understand is that process, right? That was part of the process that you go through, and it's very powerful. The other person that had a lot of impact on him and also has on me is Marshall Goldsmith, who wrote his foreword in your book. And I'd like to now ask, if I could add one quick question to Dr. How were you influenced by him? I think I know the answer to this, but just tell me how you were, because I've been influenced a lot of ways, and I see a lot of parallels to your work and what he's done.
So putting me in the same category, Mark, is humbling to say. Almost running out of words. The work that he's done and the books he's published have guided my career right from his first one, which he wrote, what get you there won't get you, what got you here won't get you there, and I think that was a useful metaphor, and the rest of his books continue to do that. And when I was living in Dubai, I was invited to one of his conferences, and I'd spoken at a conference by the same conference organizer. And I said to them, this is a conference with a keynote by Marshall. Can I meet him? And they said, well, he's kind of busy. And I said, well, there must be like some gap. And they said, no, there isn't. I said, come on, let's get creative. So the solution was that I was going to drive with him back to the airport in the limo, just to have a chat with him. And we ended up spending about 3 or 4 hours together, from the limo, waiting for the aeroplane to take off. And we had the most beautiful conversation. And I said to him, please, would you write the foreword to my book? And he said, what's it called? And I said, I want to call it Brain Triggers, based on your last book, Triggers. And he said, look, Justin, don't ride on my coattails. Mm-hmm. Build your own universe. And then he coached me through finding the title Brain Reboot. So that was a really cool experience.
That's a great story. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a delight. What else should we talk about here, Mark?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm really interested in how well you've done on this online space. I really impressed how this is doing. I don't know if you want to share more how it's going, but maybe we can save that for after the
well, I don't mind talking about 5 minutes, but then we got to end this thing in around 8 minutes or so. But
okay.
And I certainly welcome you back. We can do this every 30 days if you want. But
wow.
Or okay, 90 days if it's better. I'm trying to book you all the time,
Very good.
I'm my own booker.
If you're getting 100,000 views, I'll come in every day and I'll stalk you like Marshall.
So the thing is that LinkedIn, I live on LinkedIn as a professional networking thing. And I've learned how to use the entree. And they're very, very liberal with their tips on what not to do as well as what to do.
Right.
And then, hey, it's a community, and you can pick it up. If you misbehave, they'll let you know and start blocking you and things. And then if you do it right, then other people will feel safe. Because what happens, especially if you comment on somebody else's spiel, people will notice who don't know you from a hole in the wall, And so if you are proper, so when I write properly and courteously, it inevitably results in a track back to people looking at my profile page.
Right.
And so I've learned, and that's gone through several reboots, reincarnations. I'll make my own space and not use Reboot, but
it's really fun.
No, and so and then Google Analytics, which has been tracking not only my stuff but anyone who's on the web, you have to pay to, at a certain level in order to get more info. So we pay, but it works. And so, and it wouldn't work unless I had good guests. And
Okay.
and I can't charge. In the early days, I said, okay, well, you pay me $100, I'll give you 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and the world will
Okay.
see this thing, blah, blah, blah. And a couple of people paid, but most people says, you're hurting yourself asking for money. Give people the microphone, get out of their way, and don't let them use it as a soapbox. So you got to prepare first, so you sound intelligent. Otherwise, you don't sound intelligent,
Right.
and everybody will use you, and especially if you give it away free. So what are your guidelines? You got to develop guidelines. I said, oh my God, what am I doing? So I started watching talk shows on TV, and and binge. And YouTube and TEDs and all that, and I learned how to best do it. And then when I was a kid, I was in front of the camera. I was a salesman, and I was hired to do advertising pitches to my generation at the time on certain kid products. All right, and so I was trained, not in acting training, but just what not to do and how to do that, and create a vision. And then I became friends with some people who worked on Broadway, not in ownership, but in acting and singing and dancing, a real variety of people. And, and the question to them was, what do you do to keep a look, you don't scratch your nose, you don't do this, or, and they dance across the stage or something, or they sing, or they run a talk show on, like, not Johnny Carson, but something like that. All right. And so how do you relate to strangers? Well, it's all in the preparation. Certainly a dancer or singer has skills, or somebody who does the weather on TV, they're trained on what to say and how to stand and point in a certain area. Bottom line is that I ask people to collaborate with me on the editorial that's of interest to them by sending me bullet points of what they want to talk about. So it's not scripted, but there are borders and walls around what the topics are. And so then that gives me a chance to prepare, learn about what they're doing. And then I come up with questions that I have from reading. I make believe that they're sitting right over there, and I say, so what does this mean? And how did you do that? And all right. So it's not a memorization, it's just practical to me, right? So, and then it becomes getting that guest's appearance proper, being camera ready, and speaking right, the lighting, the pacing, and what not to look like or what to do. It's all it's show business. And so the early training that I had has come full circle. And then I also, in college, I was a college DJ, and I also was the editor of the paper. So I was always in front of a group doing something. So applying those skills to people who are far more educated professionally than me, are even much more accomplished in their own way, that doesn't make me shake or anything. I just want to learn more about them, and I ask them intelligent sounding questions, and then they just jump right in. And so the more prep on my part, the more comfortable people with those three letters after their name or in front of their name, they'll feel comfortable with Ed Cohen, and who's Ed Cohen, So it's, and that's made a difference. And the more I reach out to people who don't know me from a hole in the wall, and there's so many people out there, not to denigrate anything or anyone, but there's so many people who are trying to do this from their bedroom or their whatever, wherever. And it shows. And so the more people who try to do this who aren't trained in some way, it makes it actually easier for me to get the star guests, who, the authors or, whatever. And we're getting bookings from these PR agencies.
Wow.
So I'll be doing so Paul Johnson and I have produced more than 150 of these kinds of shows
Wow, that's pretty
since
impressive.
then. And then about 50 other things that are not programs but related. And between now and Christmas coming up, we'll probably do 100 more.
Wow, that's a
And
lot of work.
so the question is that how do you pay for all this?
Mm-hmm.
And because nobody wants to work for nothing. And so it's been really difficult coming through the pandemic because companies that do have a budget, they have a million choices of where to put that $100. And some companies who have a hot product or a hot service and they want to reach the audience that it's obvious who I have in the corporate HR, Fortune 1000 and related services, they're the ones who have supported this by wanting to be on frequently, number one, asking me to do some side hustles that will help them, and also in some cases spend some money. So the trick for me now is to find funding, series underwriters, or just advertisers who want to get on the program with their logo or their brand message because they like the quality and the intelligent conversations and they want to be associated with that. Coupling all that with our marketing plan of guaranteeing 12 months minimum exposure going forward for this program as well as all the others, and free access 24/7 worldwide on our site, which links to our YouTube channel. So I mean, all of this is like smoke and mirrors almost, but one thing feeds to another and then reverberates back, and then it creates another. And so when people come on this, when we show it publicly, starting probably tomorrow, people will look at it, even if they're only on it for 2 minutes and they say, yuck, that's a page view. All right.
Okay.
In Google Analytics language. And so they say, oh boy, this is pretty good. I think I'll watch. So then it's a timing. How long are they on the page, right? And then where do they go next on my site, or do they bounce out? Google's tracking everything. And it becomes an avalanche of minutia, and it's crazy making. So I'm just interested in what's called page views, eyeballs on the page. I don't even care how long they're on, although that's helpful. And we track where they're from, and if they're coming in on their mobile phone, or are they coming in on a desktop or laptop? All right, that's important because that's where the mobility thing is. And interestingly, you would think that people would watch this sitting around on that, but it's only about 40%, according to Google Analytics. 60% is a business setting, laptop probably, or a desktop. And 70% US. Actually, US is like 60%. Canada, meaning Toronto mostly, is almost 10%. All right. And then about 1% of Mexico. Brazil is actually pretty strong. It's all over 5%. Europe, mostly London, but coming up strong, Switzerland and Germany is about 20%. So, and then Asia Pacific is a big growth for me. It's around 8 or 9%. And Middle East Africa, once Africa opens up more, meaning South Africa, we have about 1%. And Dubai is very strong. A lot of professionals tune into this. We've picked up some relations in Tehran as well as other places. And as a matter of fact, later this week, we have an interview with a woman who will wear the traditional garb. And she's an executive with Danone yogurt, for a senior manager covering Middle East Africa, based in Dubai. Based in Tehran. And that, so it's really interesting because who's Ed Cohen, dealing with all these people. And so it's a trip.
That's cool. I'd love to have an offline conversation, really seriously, Ed. I've got two parts to it. One is to sit at the seat of your incredible experiences around this. And secondly is to share what my wife is doing in the marketing expert. She's really built my LinkedIn profile. I've got like almost 30,000 people on it, and also to share what she's doing with search engine optimization and lead generation. So there's a whole bunch. So I'd like to have
I am very interested.
Yeah. So let's have a conversation. So I'll become you show me yours and I'll show you mine.
Okay, Mark, I want you involved too. So tomorrow, so just so you know, tomorrow Paul and I are interviewing a woman in Dubai by the name of Sarah, and Sarah has been on 2 of our shows already.
Oh wow!
And she's written a book about DE&I in the business world.
Good. I lived in Dubai for 5 years, Ed. So I know that well. But I need to run away. I got like maybe 1 or 2 minutes to go, and then I know this has been such a rich conversation. So I'm sorry to let it go because I could spend the whole day chatting to you. This has been so beautiful.
So thank you. So we're interviewing Sarah at my 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Which is 7 p.m. Dubai time. And I'll send you the link and you're welcome to join in.
Oh, thank you.
Mark and Justin. Be glad. So anyway, this is a global HR director for Schneider Electric.
Oh, very good.
All right. And so to give you an idea. And she's been identified as a corporate high flyer.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to introduce me to I'm in Germany, so Schneider is clearly a German company.
Right.
So,
it's actually
so it'd
French.
be nice to chat to her. I lived in Dubai. Living in Germany, so I'd love to chat to her about it. So
okay, so we have
really
a 10 a.m. show here coming up with the head of immigration and talent mobility worldwide for this startup called DoorDash, right, which is based in San Francisco. But our speaker is from Spain, and she commutes between San Francisco and Madrid.
Oh wow!
And so she's coming on in a few minutes.
Wow.
Thank you for being.
You've got so much great content, Ed. It was so humbling to meet you, and I look forward to our next conversations. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
Thank you, Mark, for introduction. It was very good of you.
This is Ed in San Diego, Justin in Germany, Mark in Wisconsin, and Paul in Las Vegas.
Thanks for making this happen, Paul. Ed, thanks for a beautiful experience. Take care, Mark, and everybody else.
Talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.